So I guess we'll talk about premium, and we'll also talk about the beta because they're, I guess, sort of tangentially related. So premium first, and we've again talked about these. So premium forwardings, first of all, will transfer as they are. Those aren't going to change. There may be some changes to exactly how the
Wait,
sandbox thing
what?
works, right? So I worked on an item-based system, which allows me to customize like basically everything about an item, right? So that's like what hopefully will lead to enchantments and crafting and that sort of thing. But it also allows you to do things like apply soulbound to an item just off the bat, right? So maybe there's some way that we can change P4 to be better integrated with the players or with the non P4 players and just leave them in. Alternatively, we talked before about maybe having a P4 only sandbox like version of the game where they have slash give, but they can't affect everyone else at all.
That would be
But
good.
part of what was so bad about the P4 situation in the first place, right, was that they would just slash give themselves what was by far the best items, right? And then they just run over, instant kill a boss, and nobody else will get percentage, right? The problem with that isn't even P4 slash give. It's actually that some items were just freaking broken, right? That's the actual truth. So one thing that we're trying to do is make sure that the actual disparity between the best items in the game and like the second tier, like what you call the best in slot and the second tier, aren't
Hellas
actually.
poison.
Yeah, right. You can't have Ella's essence be that strong for that long, right? You can't have slasher like what like it just the disparity between the best items and the second best isn't going to be quite as bad. But that said, the biggest issue with the P4 situation was that they would just slash give themselves strong items all the time. They'd run in, and if they die, there's nothing really to worry about. So they just try to max the DPS. So it's
Well,
hard.
they
It's hard to say
stole
for
loot
sure.
thresholds from everybody too.
Right. They stole loot threshold. Right? So it is hard to be sure exactly how we can best integrate them with the other players. But we're going to look at ways to do it. One option is the sandbox. Another way is more aggressive. So right, premium 4 stuff will mostly transfer as is. Exactly how it works, we'll see, right? Because the loot situation is certainly problematic. But the ranks will transfer over. For premiums 1 through 3, what we're planning to do is give, depending on the rank they had, right, exclusive legacy content, right? So exclusive content is probably going to be some skins, some cosmetic pets, and stuff that you can only get if you're a legacy premium player. And then you'll also get a special tag, right, like a legacy supporter tag, something like that, a special role, name tag, colors, that sort of thing.
Legacy as in playing before, like the
as
game.
in a premium player from the last version of the game. Yeah.
Okay.
And then of course there's the different stuff. So the goal obviously is to make sure that everyone's actually happy, right? Like we want to make sure that people who bought premium before, first of all, they should feel more or less rewarded, right? Because the premium that we bought before was for the previous version of the game, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully it doesn't feel too much like a scam that we're going to this new game, this new release and wiping, right? Because ideally everyone paid for the premium in the old game and that's what they got, right? But we also want to make sure that our old players are actually happy with the new game, right? It's not good enough if the old players come to the new game and they're like, yeah, this is okay, but I want my old account back, right? The goal should be that everyone should actually be completely universally excited. This is the new game. This is new RotF. This is how it should be, right? So we need to make sure that we keep our old premium players satisfied. We actually have to make sure we keep all of our old players in general satisfied. And we also have to make sure that the game is accessible to new players. So there is going to be some balance between the new premium stuff, the old premium stuff, and the non-premium at all stuff. And the truth is we might not get it right on the first try. And if we do, you guys will scream at us and we'll fix it. I think it's that simple. We might not get it right first try. But we want everyone to be happy. It should be fun. So if it sucks, we'll fix it. That should be pretty simple, hopefully.
If it sucks, we run away with your money.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Exit scam, boys.
Yeah, okay.
Pog.
So that's
Profit.
sort of where we're at, right? So again, I have talked about this before, but since we're recording this time, I think we'll get it. The biggest difficulty when it comes to this testing thing is actually not for testing individual pieces of content, right? It's not like, is this dungeon balanced? Is this weapon fair? Is this weapon, does it drop too easily? That's definitely an issue, right? That's definitely QA, that's important. But it's not the main focus of testing. The main focus of testing is making sure that stability is good, right? We need to make sure that the game works, right? There was a period after we released Necropolis, probably like a month afterwards, where the game was actually, I think it had like a month of uptime, maybe a little more. And once you see that you can be up for a month with no stability issues, that means the game is working. There aren't any stability issues. None that matter, really. And then fast forward like 3 months or so, and the game is crashing on a weekly basis. The focus is making sure that the stability is actually good. And part of what made it so difficult to face the issue, with RotF, was that you have a player base of about 600 people on at any given moment, right? And it's really hard to isolate a problem that affects the entire server, when it could be any one player's items doing this, any one player's gear, any one player's world or vault or anything. It's really, really hard to figure out. The best way to ensure that the server is stable like that from release, right, is to build it up with a small number of players, and once we are sure that it can handle that many players consistently for a long-ish period of time, we have to trickle in more players, and we keep slowly having a slow influx of players as we develop the server and as we develop the stability and make sure that it works.
So that involves a queue, right?
So the testing period needs to be focused first on having the right number of players in at the right time, right? We need to be able to control exactly how many players are on and aren't, right? The most obvious solution, this is what Nilly's Realm did, right, was to just have a queue, right? Here's how many players can be on at a given time, and then that's you can play. I don't like that system, personally. There's the 2v2t system, right, where you have the giant queue and you just wait for like 24 hours to play. That's ridiculous. By the time you get, your time to play, you won't even be there probably. You might just be AFK. There's really no guarantees.
Sounds like fun.
So yeah, it's terrible, right? So the solution that I propose, and I think I got laughed at by Novi when I first suggested it, but I still kind of like it. Is this? We're gonna have a key system where we just release a small number of beta keys to, I don't know, like 20 people or so, and we just start by testing with just those 20 people, right? And one of the things that we'll have is a quest system where when you complete certain quests, you actually unlock another beta key which you can share with a friend. And then they, in turn, can log into the game, do their quests, and unlock a beta key for their friend. So the benefit of this, right, is we can immediately control how many people are and aren't online without just feeling like we're just closing it off to people who didn't wait in a 20-hour queue, right? If we feel like there aren't enough people because we're actually relatively stable and we need to get more people in to get better testing, it's simple. We release more quests that have more keys. Done. And if we need fewer people, all you have to do is just stop, turn off those quests. We can dial down the number of quests being given out all the way up to 0, right?
You're going to have
so
a problem.
We get really fine-tuned control over who has access to the game and who doesn't, and it's really great. The main 3 downsides that I think we talk about are players that hoard all the keys to themselves, players that real-world trade the keys, and then this is only sort of a downside, but if you give a key to a guild owner or whatever, they'll probably just give it to their guild mates, right?
Or players with no friends.
Well, I feel like you can
That's
still do a
me.
giveaway, right? I mean, you can do that. You can go fucking YouTube and just get, Gleam.io. Subscribe to my channel for there's ways to do it, right?
I got a
Oh
question.
So
shit!
hold up, we'll get there. So I can't. I'll get to it. But
If you do that beta system, dude, you're gonna have really huge problems with real world trading. People are gonna sell fucking.
so the good news is, right, if that happens, worst comes to worst, if that happens, right?
They have
It will.
Possibility.
There's no if.
So hold up. Possibility 1 is that happens, right? And we don't know about it.
I don't know.
I'm not hearing I'm not really hearing the huge issue, right? Yes, someone sells key access, but although we would definitely disallow it, and if we found out about it, all the accounts get banned. It's kind of whatever. If they do it, right? Hold up. The main goal of the system, right? And so this is what I'm getting at, right? The main goal of the system is to be able to have fine-tuned control over how many people have access to the game at once, right?
Mhm.
So if a few people will trade their keys, I mean, we'll try to ban them. But worst comes to worst, a few people will trade their keys.
It's the smallest problem you have with banning people that sell keys. It's like it's
Right.
the smallest problem
So
you have.
I mean, it is an issue, right? And the same thing goes with people only going to guildmates or people wanting to not give their keys away. It's whatever. But at the end of the day, the main goal of the system is just to make sure that we have precise control over how many people can play at once and be able to slowly trickle in more players when necessary. I also think, like, if you consider how exclusive some of these things are, right? Like these keys, the odds of people being willing to real world trade them, I would say, are relatively low.
He never comes
Those
back.
problems are absolutely there, right? Those problems are 100% there. And I'm not contesting that. But I think that it solves the problems that we needed to solve, which is being able to make a stable testing server where we can slowly trickle in the right number of players. Those problems exist, but aren't like foundational issues that we need to solve in order to get the game back running, right? While having the right number of players online is.
Yeah, for sure.
Plus, it's kind of fun to grind. Like, I think it's kind of cool to have your friends hyping you up as you try to grind for a key and get them in the game, right? And by the way, again, once you do that, they can grind for keys and get their friends keys. So it's
Wait.
kind of a new.
But
Can I ask a question?
It's far from
Can
that.
I have a
because
question?
If you put like 20 people to get it's far from like people asking to get their friends that have a beta key to get in the game. It's like you should think like of a bigger number than that. Like you said hypothetically
But
20 people, but
right. That was a
Yeah.
random number, but no, that's actually the number that we do want, and the reason is because we need to start with testing with just 20 people.
Are you going
Right.
to be able to
The
get
number
more
of
than
keys that we
one key?
release will, yes, you will. The number of keys that
Okay.
we release will scale directly with how many people we need to be online, right? So if we at first need 20 just to see does the game work at all, then it's going to be 20 first,
And you
and
have
then
to
maybe
make
release like.
Oh,
So
and you have
let's say, right, that we need a lot more players at once, right? We could just make it so that the next quest that you do gives 5 keys instead of 1, right? We have
Yeah.
fine-tuned control over that, right?
Yeah, but the thing is that some players are maybe casual players, you know, and
Yeah,
won't
absolutely.
be able to get in the beta, and
That's fine.
that's automatically going to make people sell keys, you know, because
I'm not entirely sure if I agree with you there.
because I'm thinking like
I
that.
don't
you
think.
You choose 20 people, okay? You have to choose like the most devoted people that are gonna
Sure.
play the game because they have to test it out and they have to report
The
bugs.
homebrew guild.
So
How
I said
many-
I said this earlier. The first people who would be likely to be chosen are probably a few people who owned the biggest guilds before, some people who are really active in premium chat who I know have been, watching this game since day one or since the game went down. I'd choose people that I know deserve the keys, right?
That's
And then
talent.
they choose their friends and they choose their
now
friends.
the question comes: how many
Sure.
people, how many friends do you think these people have? Like there might be a player like me
Zero.
who was in a very good guild, has friends in the game,
Sure.
but I have like let's talk about a guy that just plays casually
Sure.
and has not a lot of friends. He's gonna
Right.
be the last one to get into the beta. That's what
Sure.
I'm thinking.
Well, that's honestly okay. I mean, the end goal is that, we want to just make sure we have the right number of players, right? Again, the goal isn't to test these specific
Yeah,
content.
I get it.
Right?
I get it,
So,
man.
if we have more veteran players, that's fine. If we have more new players, that's fine. The main thing is that we need to make sure it can handle the players correctly. And then, just because the way this trickle down effect is, with the keys should work, eventually you should have a pretty diverse group of players, being able to play the game in the testing phase, right?
And I think
but
the good part
goal
about this
isn't to do
is
that day one. The goal is just to make sure that the game works. So
So
I think the good part also is that since this is also like a team game, you'll have the people that want to be playing together.
exactly. So I mentioned this earlier, and I guess you don't have to stop the recording now. We'll talk about the one other thing that I've already talked about now, which is the new realm system, right? And it is much more focused on playing with your friends. And it should make the key system make even more sense, hopefully. So the
but I
realm
was
system, yeah.
thinking to get on a par with the people that are not going to get into the beta because there are guys that are very good at the game or really enjoy the game but don't have relations to get the beta key. Like you're going to have to think about that there's going to be a lot of leaks, you know, and for the
What do
players
you mean
that
by
are not
like in terms of the
like
content? In terms of-
leaks in terms of the content and in
That's
terms
fine.
of the
It's not
gameplay.
private. It's not private.
Yeah, but I mean, it's gonna be kind of for me. If I was a player who I knew I wouldn't have access to the beta, I would be really pissed to see like a lot of people playing it, and I would be one of the last ones to get into the game. You know what I'm saying? Or this
Guys,
problem.
I've got the solution right here. Ready? Here, I'll give you a beta key. Okay, we're done. Next question. There is some validity to that, right? The truth is that some people who are really dedicated will not wind up with keys right away. I don't have an answer for you. It's just we have a limited number of people who we can have playing the game at once while we're doing the testing phase, and that might include you immediately. It might not, and unfortunately, like there isn't an obvious answer. If I see you in premium chat, right, I might just throw you a key.
I would, but I don't have premium.
Well,
Give me money real quick.
that's an L right there.
The
But, hey,
point of testing
get
is to
out.
test the fucking bugs and broken shit that the game is going
Right,
to have.
Yeah, it's
specifically
It's not
stability.
about having fun. It's not
Specifically
about
stability.
it's not about seeing all the content first. It's about fucking
Right.
testing the shit.
Correct.
You know?
100%
There's going to be a
correct.
limited amount of people that are in, so like,
Right.
just
So,
expect to not get a key, and if you get one, you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Unfortunate
Playing
truth,
the
but
beta,
yes.
it's like having a job without being paid.
I mean, I would say that that more applies to the QA in particular. Is much more about like actually like working and looking for bugs. While I will say that why is there so much background noise? It's crazy.
Mini, a question that I don't think's been asked.
Sure.
Is there going to be a wiki?
Not run by us, as far as I know. But I mean,
Bless you.
and we'd certainly do everything we could to like give you the resources to make it run if you want to run a fan one. So the plan is to do a slow trickle, right? I feel like the priority speaker thing doesn't work at all. It is? Okay. The plan is to just make sure that that system allows us to do a slow trickle. It's not ideal for testing content. It's not ideal for testing specific dungeons, but it is ideal for testing stability, and that's priority number one, right? There's no point in making good content if you can't play it because it keeps breaking. In terms of getting the right number of players in at the right time for testing, I think it'll be good. So we'll do our best. So I guess we'll talk about realms now, yeah? So the realm system is going to be a bit different. It's going to be a little bit of a cross between the old realms and the old galaxies, something sort of in between. The realms will be designed for like a lot fewer players, right? Significantly smaller number of players at a given time. The goal is that you should be able to enter with your whole guild, roughly, right? You should be able to have like 30, 40, 50 players in maybe at a given time. Which also, by the way, puts like a sort of natural cap on dungeons because the only way to access dungeons is through the main realm, right? So we don't have to put like you can't join this dungeon because we don't have to put that message. Just people who are in the realm can join. People who aren't, well, they're in a different realm. It's fine. And there's smaller areas that are completely procedurally generated each time that you enter a realm. And they are filled with, I think we said 12 or so. We haven't decided yet, but I think 12 biomes is the idea. So in old RotF, right, and I guess also in Realm of the Mad God, right, the way the realms worked was that there was obviously a few different areas, right? There was the shore, there were Midlands, Godlands, and whatever, and then there's also events, right? The way everyone played old RotF was you TP to the massive group of people in Godlands, you TP to events, and that's all you do, right? And then obviously you play the galaxies, you play the dungeons and shit, but you don't actually ever play the realm. Like you don't do anything there. The only things that you were there for were farm pots if you need them after we removed pots from galaxies, and farm events and farm dungeons. That was it. So rather than lean away from that, because people actually sort of seem to think that was okay, rather than lean away, we'd rather lean in. So the new plan for realms is actually to have 12 or so biomes, and that is the entirety of the realm. If you go to the spoiler chat and scroll up, you should actually find an example screenshot of like what we're talking about with this procedurally generated area. That only has 3 biomes, and they're both all 3 of them are testing rather. I think there's some Cookie Monster tiles there, maybe, and Icy Peaks tiles. And right, the idea is that you will have 12 or so of these procedurally generated biomes, right? And the actual set piece, right? The actual what we used to call the set pieces, right? For those biomes will be randomly placed within them, right? And it could be a different set of 12 biomes each time. You won't know which ones are going to spawn. So
Nice.
the goal is, when you first enter the realm, the entire map is covered, right? Just like any other dungeon you enter.
Yeah.
And as you explore, you actually reveal the map, just like any other dungeon. The other players will also reveal the map for you, so it's collaborative. The goal is to explore the realm and actually, the goal is to explore the realm and actually find all of the set pieces, find the lords of them. We have this, what we're calling them now as biomes and lords because they aren't really set pieces. The lords are like, the Yeti is the lord of the Icy Peaks biome, right? So the goal is to find all of the lords, defeat them all, and then you get to the world boss, and we'll talk about that in a second. Just to be clear, though, every single lord is guaranteed to have a dungeon. So we're not going to have any biomes that don't drop dungeons. Every single one of them does. And some will obviously be harder than others. Every realm is guaranteed to have a certain number of hard dungeons and a certain number of easy dungeons. So the first thing is, when it comes to the easy and hard dungeons, the goal is that you should have a decent number of like new characters and veteran characters. I don't want to say players because the players, they might all be veterans, right? But in terms of character development, because it's a permadeath whatever game, you should have a decent number of new and old characters in a given round at a given time. So the veteran characters will obviously be looking to fight the harder bosses, right? The harder lords, because there's better loot to get from them and there's better dungeons there, right? And the lower level ones, I tend to think that the fame training thing will be much more difficult with the smaller number of players within these realms, right? So the goal would probably be on, we'll see how well this works, but the hope is to naturally filter these players where the higher level players will go straight to, if there's a crop biome, right? Run to fight the Shade of Novus, right? And the lower level players will go fight the pirates in the seashore biome, right? And the goal is that'll happen naturally because the lower level players will get instant killed by higher level stuff, right? And that'll happen naturally. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, we're gonna play it ourselves. We're gonna play it with you guys, and we're gonna hear what you guys think. And if it's terrible, we'll fix it. But that's the thought for now. And again, hold up. Well, I'm gonna explain the system first, all right? But the idea is that we're gonna have a certain number guaranteed of low level stuff, a certain number guaranteed of high level stuff. And the goal, like I said, is to explore this realm, which reveals itself as different players, walk through it and explore the area and defeat all of the lords. And the reason that you're trying to defeat all the lords, including the low level ones, is to get to the world boss. And the world boss, generally speaking, has the best loot in the game. Okay, there's a whole like transformation sequence. I guess the best way to describe it, you can compare it to Oryx, right? what used to be the realm closing, and now Oryx is shaking the realm, and then now you are fighting Oryx, and he dies in 2 seconds, right? What used to be that is going to be an actually really cool, hopefully, fight with a world boss, right? Where the loot's actually really good. One of the issues that we had before was actually, just as a sort of tangentially related thing, was power creep, obviously. One of the goals that we have with the world boss system is that the best loot in the game should be from the world bosses, so it establishes a sort of vertical ceiling to how strong items should get. But anyway, that aside, the world boss is sort of the replacement for what was Oryx and Oryx Castle and all that, where, as you can see, that realm is all procedurally generated, right? The entire realm sort of undergoes a transformation. I don't know if any of you guys play games that do this, but I'm trying to think of an example. I don't know if I can think off the top of my head, but the entire map and tile set will change to match the theme of this world boss. You get a whole cool hype sequence as the boss spawns in, and then everyone who's still left in the realm is sent to fight the world boss. So the goal is that you'll still want some low level players in your realms to deal with the small or the low level world or low level lords, so that you can get to the world boss. Obviously, high level players can deal with it too, right? And like for what it's worth, the smaller number of players is targeted so that you can have realms that are just solo players or just groups of parties or just guilds, right? We're not sure exactly how it's going to work yet, but something to that effect where you should be able to play with your friends, right? So the goal is that if you do have a realm where it's only high level players, that's fine. They'll still defeat the low level lord. It's not an issue. But the idea is that there will still be content for the low level players to do. You don't have to go and just get one shot or get fame trained by high
But you
level
can
stuff.
though if you want, right?
You could. You probably get one shot,
Okay.
but you could.
Okay.
So the good news about these changes, right, including the small number of players in these realms, right, is that the threshold system is way less terrible. Just put simply, right? The biggest issue that we had with that threshold system was that when you had massive dungeons with massive amounts of people in it, nobody could get threshold except for P4 is people that are slasher, basically, right? It was basically impossible. So by lowering the number of people in these dungeons, it's actually or in these realms rather, you also effectively lower the number of people in the dungeons. So what was the root question again? Let me make sure I actually answered it.
I was asking if, like, in ROTF in the past, it was like you wouldn't have to do a lot of damage to get sold out items from that boss.
Right.
So I was thinking, okay, go ahead.
Yep. So you're right. Yep. So the biggest change that we are doing to combat that is the smaller number of players in the realm, like we said. The hope is that the benefit for high level players to go to the low level stuff is relatively low, right? They want to go to the high level stuff first, right? So the only reason that we guarantee the low level stuff is just to make sure that there's always some content for the low level characters to fight and get gear and be able to eventually fight the higher level stuff.
Okay,
Will there
so
only be one lord per biome?
One lord per biome, that's right. So you're guaranteed to have, again, this isn't final, but take the Icy Peaks one, you will have the Yeti set piece in the Yeti biome, in the Icy Peaks biome rather.
So a small
So
question.
you're looking to explore and find it. Yep, go ahead.
So will there only be one world boss specifically, or
there will be
will there
many world bosses,
be-
and which one spawns will
Okay,
be
so
random.
so it'll be almost biome based, not
So
biome
it's
based.
not quite biome based because remember there are several biomes in each realm, right?
Yeah.
But it's you're correct that each world boss will have its own unique texture, flavor, whatever,
Yeah.
and it'll
So
have its own
it
tile
won't
set,
be
its own
forced.
spawning sequence, its own hype sequence. The tiles of the map are slowly changing, and you get like a countdown. It's not done yet, but I think who have I shown it to so far? I think I've shown it to Kebbles, I've shown it to Pat Pot, and I think it's pretty hype.
Can the
So
players in the realm manipulate
pretty fucking
the
sick.
transformation of the
They
Yeah,
cannot.
that's actually
They
really
cannot.
cool.
It's decided. So the way you do it, right, is you have to clear out all the lords, right? And once it happens, the tiles will start flooding in. You'll see which world boss spawns.
Okay. So
there is a possibility that I'm expecting someone to ask this at some point. That one world boss is objectively going to drop better loot than another. So the solution is we'll just rebalance the loot. It's not going to be perfect. We're going to do what we can.
Well, I mean, do you think you could put one certain boss on a certain set then?
What do you? Oh, like for a certain set of biomes.
Yeah.
Nah.
So you could have,
because
a warrior class would be more beneficial to one per boss.
Probably true. Although, if anything, we'd rather not tell everyone what boss is going to spawn, so that we have a dynamic group of players in each dungeon, right, or in each realm rather, where you have to assume you have a bunch. But I don't know. We're personally given that the actual realms, right now are almost completely procedurally generated, right? No, they are, right? Except for the set pieces themselves, right? The actual things that the world boss or that the lords stand on. The entire thing procedurally generated. We'd also like to keep the world boss that spawns random.
Question.
Also, obviously, once you clear out all the lords, that's the realm closed, right? So obviously, people can't rejoin the
Yeah.
realm once that happens.
The thing is, so you're trying to create basically a path for players to grind on, or is it going to be the possibility for a player, let's say a player that's low level, to get into the high level, like the world boss that's high level, to get lucky, to get like soulbound damage and get like really good loot and maybe be able to sell it, or is the soulbound going to be like a lot higher so he could not possibly be able to get soulbound loot?
I would, if I had to guess, I would say that even a really, really good player, when competing with high-level players that are actually in that dungeon, or sorry, in that realm, the odds are they would not be able to reach the soulbound threshold required. If I had to guess,
You answered my question. Okay.
if it did happen, I wouldn't see any problem with it. I think that that's the player skill, and it's also everyone else really sharded the bed and forgot to hit the
You're not
boss.
trying to avoid that.
No, I don't think it's problematic, but I also think that personally, I don't see an issue, especially with like a bullet hell game like this. I see no issue with bosses that are completely unbeatable for players beyond a certain character level. That's the point of grinding, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So,
But you have to make sure that the satisfaction is equal from players that have low level and players that have
agreed,
high
100%,
level.
110%. Yep, for sure. And who knows if we'll do it, right? Maybe we'll completely screw it up and we'll have to change it. But the hope is that with enough changes, right, given that this is a multiplayer game, we can update it. The thought is that eventually we'll get it right. Yeah. So we'll
the
see.
thing is that the community makes this game. Like even if you
Very
launch
true.
it, there's gonna be a lot of players that are going to give feedback, and that's that's gonna be the beginning of you practically developing the game by the likes of the other players. That's how I
100% true.
see it.
That's what we were doing, towards the end of RotF until it,
Okay.
got DMCA'd, but it's good.
Okay.
Someone else had a question, and then I missed what they said, and then I completely moved on. What happened? Something happened.
I have something.
Okay, let's hear it.
Have we decided if there's going to be level cap yet? And if so, is that
There is a level cap.
Real quick.
There is definitely a level cap. Did we decide on the number? I mean, I think we decided against doing the original plan, which was the one in Kevil's video, which was the level 80 stuff. That said, there's different. Someone asked runes being less OP. We'll talk about it in a second. But for character progression, there's a number of things that are probably going to change. The biggest thing is that before, like, the idea of maxing was completely wrong, right? Like 8-8 was not maxed at all, right? You want to get your skill tree done, you need some runes.
It
Like
was equal to 0. Yes, right.
yes, that's almost like level 1, right? Level 28-8 is like honestly level 1. Like
Yeah.
you can have impact, but like you can now be relevant when fighting stuff. Like it's not really a thing. So the thought was moving some skill tree stuff, especially we're not quite sure how Galaxy are going to work yet, or if they're going to be a thing as we move some of these smaller dungeons and smaller group based things to the main realms. The thought is that why did I lose my train of thought? Completely lost it. Right, level caps, right. So one thought is that as you level past, we don't know if it's going to be 20 or 30 or whatever, but there's going to be a small level cap, and then levels that you get beyond that instead go to your skill tree. So when you get enough XP, you get another point in your skill tree.
Yeah, the thing is with these level 20, it always was useless. Like if you think about it, it didn't help with nothing but being able to get level 20 and get fame.
Correct. It's completely. I mean, you actually could get fame in RotF before level 20.
Yeah.
It was skilled XP. So, I mean, yeah. The obvious thing that's going to happen is when you level up, right? You gain some more stats, right? And then I think past the cap, when you get a certain amount of EXP, you get another skill point. Is probably what it's going to be. And also to a cap. But I don't actually know for sure. We'll see what the answer winds up being. I think we tend to think that the best way to do is to have an obvious medium to low level cap, and then have those extra EXP points go into fame or go into skill points or both. But I think that's something that we try and then see what happens. And if everyone loves it, great. If everyone doesn't, then we fix it.
Yeah. So the path that I see it is that either you make a system that rewards players by getting levels, like let's say in World of Warcraft, where they have to get to if you get to another level, like level 80, you're level maxed, and if you're level 80, you are to one of the top players in the game, or you make it framed from 0, like you don't make levels anymore.
So we most likely would select the level system, and again, once you get past a certain level, then the XP starts spilling over into skill points, stuff like that. But we also, I mean, the original plan for old RotF was actually to change some of this, fame grind and EXP stuff, to be made for our new leaderboard/ladder system, which turns out to be very similar to what I think Atlas maybe wound up implementing. Though I think our plans were a little different. It was somewhat like that, where there is sort of a season where you have ladder characters that spill over into the main game afterwards.
Sorry about the background noise, but will there still be some main like currency farm?
Yes, definitely. There's an economy.
Hog.
Okay, so he says, "Are you guys going to do stuff to make money, etc.? I get the donations make quite a bit, but if you guys grow up to be very big, bringing prod players, etc., what are your ideas for stuff like microtransactions?" So the first obvious thing is, right, is no paid pay to win, like you feed your pet and it plays the game for you, right? No paying for items, no paying for power, right? Those are just off the bat. We're not doing.
RWT.
Thank you.
Thanks for clarifying. I tend to think that the main forms of monetization will still be a premium system, right? And then gold. And what you can spend it on will most likely be skins, most likely be cosmetic pets, and maybe keys again, we'll see.
Oh, so you're saying there's not gonna be like items for fame anymore?
There will still be items for fame.
Okay.
These were questions about real money microtransactions.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So you're not gonna put things that impact the performance and the way that players
No,
have
like I
power
said, there
in
will
the
be
game.
there will only be no pay to win, no pay to advance faster, nothing like that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the main currency will still be fame.
Is that the name we're going with?
Probably.
I don't think so. I think you change it.
Well, we'll see, right? I mean, it's a question mark.
Why-
But the main currency will still be in-game currency that is untied from real money. Yes. But when it comes to actual monetization, it will be through, I think, almost exclusively, cosmetic content. One thing that we had planned a while ago that I wrote the code for mostly, and then we didn't get to finish doing, was the pet system, which worked something like this, right? Where you can spend gold to adopt a certain pet, right? And again, they're all cosmetic. They don't do not 100 healing per second. They just follow you around. They look cute. Oepo did a really good job spriting them. And you can spend a certain amount of gold to get one particular pet. And then also Premium 1 players would have access to, they could choose any 2 pets that were available. They could just adopt 2. No charge, right? So in addition to what they'd already purchased, when we added pets, they'd automatically get those things free. Premium 2 players would get access to adopt 4 pets free. And then Premium 3 we're going to adopt 6. Premium 4 gets any that they want, surprise. But there's also going to be this other thing, and we were trying to figure out exactly what other perks would go with it, but there was going to be subscription-based rank, which is obviously optional. But if you get that, you get access to all of the pets at once while you have the rank, and you can use whichever one you want. You can also get access to all the skins, stuff like that. It was going to be like $5 a month. Is that still going to be a thing? I'm not sure. It might be a good idea. We might do it. But if nothing else, the pets will definitely be a thing, and that will be part of the pet system.
Did you start writing code for pets? Did you even?
Yeah, it was. I don't know how many of you guys saw, but there was like a little. I think the pet was named Ming. There was a little snail pet following me around. I think Kebbles had like a little mini Shrek following him around.
Yeah.
You did, right? And then I briefly made it a rune register, and then it turned out that it was really broken and blocking people's sight. And like the point is, it's done, right? The pet system works. The only thing that was really remaining to do was finish the adoption system, where you can actually, the UI for adopting pets.
Your plan for adopting pets is that it's just purely cosmetic. They don't provide any bonuses.
Correct. Completely
Yeah,
cosmetic.
no, we had always planned that there would be no actual like gameplay bonuses for pets. They were
They're
just
just
gonna
cool.
follow you around and look cute.
That's good.
So Miniguy, I have.
Wait, but hold on. There's someone who is not Jacob talking, and I don't like Jacob, so let's ask the other guy first.
Fuck
No,
this.
that was like temporary pets like Drakes, where you pop the egg and like for the dungeon you have something follow you around.
That was actually originally there was a Kerbal suggestion. I actually did like this, where if you were going to have pets that do have some impact, it would be completely untied from currency. They would not persist after death, and they would be character bound, right? Or you could have one dungeon, one instance pets, right? I'm not completely against those. I think there is room for it, but I also think that there's such a stigma against pets in this, I'll say this genre, that I'm careful to do it, certainly with the initial release. It could happen, but I certainly would avoid it for the initial release, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm gonna talk to my least favorite guy, Jacob. What's up?
Okay, so Mr. Miniguy, I have
Yes.
another question from a community member.
Oh, it wasn't a question from you. I should have talked to you. What's up?
So with the skill tree, are we planning to, if you can speak about it, if not, all good. But with the skill tree, are we planning to have it be very big and convoluted like PoE, or more like old ROTF?
Have we decided yet? Even
You just
The
control
thought was
C,
that we
control
want
B, the PoE skill tree.
Of course. That's the Kettle's plan. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm messing.
Not my plan. What are you talking about?
It's not. I'm completely kidding. I'm completely kidding. But the thing I can say for sure is that we wanted to make runes and skill tree a little more connected. We're probably going to make runes character bound, which means that the PoE system, which is less about like specific stat boosts and has also like passive effects.
Yeah, you don't really want to make it complicated. Like the system that was like in the past was really good in my opinion for the simplicity. Like you had common runes for every character. That would be like the best way
It's
to
true,
go.
but the runes were not necessarily completely like just like a stat boost, right? They actually have passive effects. So what I will say is the PoE system has actually a pretty healthy blend, right, of what are basically just stat boosts for specific like elements or whatever, and like passive reactive effects, right? And I think the goal might be to merge runes and skill tree to some extent to make a PoE like system. So it's hard to say. I wouldn't. The hope is certainly that it wouldn't be convoluted, right? It should be straightforward to use. But I also think it's fun to have this, the PoE thing where basically half of the game where you're playing PoE is just playing PoB, which is the path of building shit, and you're just trying to come up with fun builds that work. So I don't want to say that it's going to be like simple, if that makes sense. I want to make sure that there's actually a lot of room for theory crafting and shit. But I don't think we actually have a direct plan as to like the layout or exactly what will or won't be on it. So I wish I could give a better answer, but that's all I got.
I have a question. Do you know what you're doing with loot boosts yet?
Loot boosts. So I did talk about it a little bit earlier. So the plan is most likely to do a temporary thing, and for guilds at least, if you're talking about guilds, where you have a charge-based thing where everyone in your guild can contribute to some reward that they're going for, whether it's opening a realm that's just for them, right, or gaining a 24-hour loot boost, or guaranteeing that any guild realms they go into will have this certain biome, right? All things that you could potentially build up your guild fame for. But it expires. All of them are time-based.
So there's no like permanent fucking loot boost. There's no
no permanent loot boost.
No fire sword shit.
Maybe there are things you have in your inventory, right? Maybe fire sword like things, but for permanent things, no, absolutely not.
Good.
So another question that's like kind of absurd. I don't know if you thought about it. Are we gonna have more like other items other than the basic items like the sword, the spell, the armor, and the ring? Are there gonna be like more complicated stuff like trinkets or stuff like that, or you're just gonna stick to the basic?
So I guess the first thing to talk about is the defensive ability, and this is something that like, I mean, might not happen. I have it working. I have it coded, but it's like it doesn't feel as good to play as I hoped it would. So I'll explain it. But there's a good chance it's gonna change very much. And it's this thing with the defensive ability. You saw earlier, probably in spoilers, where I have like my wizard just deflecting shit. Yes, that obviously isn't going to be a wizard ability. But the thought was that each class would actually have a dedicated defensive ability that's charge based, right? So the knight, for example, I don't know if you guys play League of Legends, but the knight was going to have a Pantheon E-like thing where they can hold their defensive ability charge based, and they slow themselves, but they take no damage. They can just brute their way through things, and it's charge based, right? The assassin or the ninja, I hadn't decided which one, or maybe both of them, is going to have the deflection ability, whereas charge based you can only deflect a certain number of projectiles. They do reduce damage, but you can deflect enemy projectiles for a short period of time, right? Think Genji. I think the plan for the wizard one, I don't know if you guys play Smash, but think like Meta Knight's down B in Smash where he does the cape twirl, vanish, and reappear. The thought for the wizard one was
that would be really cool, actually. Yeah.
He does a little cape flip, vanishes, and is invincible during that time. Can do a short blink, think trickster like thing, and then reappears somewhere. But as he reappears, think like Gungeon dodge roll. He's stunned for a bit, so you are vulnerable to damage, right? Something to that effect. All of these things are more or less working already. I already have the code for them. But making the charge system not terrible is really hard. Okay. I don't yet have a way to do it. And, like, you can DM me suggestions. Maybe don't talk. Let's not talk about it for now because we'll be here forever. But you can DM me suggestions.
It's really complex. Yeah, it's kind of hard to do it to get smooth.
Right,
like I know.
Hold up. But right, the way that we have it working right now is that the charge is based on how many things you dodge. So if you get near misses to things, you gain charge, and then when you're using the defense abilities, you lose charge. But it doesn't actually feel super intuitive when you're gaining charge, so you just don't really know when you can and can't use the ability, so it's no good. It's not good for a bullet hell. But I'm hopeful that we'll find a way to make it feel right, and if we don't, then that's it. But the original plan...
Okay.
Hold on, come on.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm still talking. So, we'll see if it actually turns out playable with how the charge system works. But the goal was that each class would have their own unique defensive ability. One of the questions that I heard was, is there going to be like a separate slot for the defensive ability? No,
Yeah.
it's not. It's not something that you would upgrade. It's not even an item. It's class based.
Okay.
But it's possible you can adjust those, whether it's how much you get charged for when you like dodge, or how much charge costs, stuff like that. It's possible that those things could be adjusted by skill tree stuff or rune stuff.
All
Right?
right, so it's a
That's
passive
definitely
ability
possible.
for every class.
But correct, every class would have their own ability.
Alright.
And exactly how it works might change, right? Because there was talk for a while about making the classes a sort of a function of the skill tree, where everyone starts with 4 main classes. This is probably not happening. But the thought was that there would be 4 main classes, right? You have a mage of some sort, an archer of some sort,
Yeah.
a knight
To
of
make
some
it more
sort,
simple
something
for
else.
you and for us,
hold on.
like yeah.
Yes, but no, because it's actually more complex. But hold on, you gotta let me finish before you start commenting. It's a little hard to answer things before I finish explaining. So the original plan was to have like 3 or 4 main classes, right? That all classes would then deviate or derive from, right? So the archer, for example, might be the root class, and then you can go into huntress or traps master or something like that, right? Or maybe assassin would also be a subclass. I'm not really sure, something like that, right? And then you have knight, which has subclass warrior, brute, and a few other things, right? And you have mage, which has subclass wizard, sorcerer, and I don't know, necromancer or something like that, right? And the idea was that you'd specialize as you go further, and it would be a function of the skill tree where once you get enough skill points, you can actually subclass, right? It was a kind of cool idea. I kind of liked it, and then the thought would be also then that all of those classes would share the basic weapons, right? So all 3 mage subclasses or whatever would be able to use the basic mage stabs, right, or staves, but only the subclasses could use their specific abilities or whatever and their weapons. And I thought it was kind of cool when we talked about it, but it might just be too complex and it might not actually feel good to play. We haven't gotten to actually like write it yet. I haven't coded any of that yet, so it's really hard to tell whether it's good. But it was something we were talking about doing. We got anything else? I feel like we've been here a while. We should probably kill it pretty soon. Do we have anything
I
else?
say wrap it up, yeah.
Miniguy.
Whoa.
All right. So I have like one last question that I want to conclude. Like, if everyone agrees. So we've talked a lot. We've talked about a lot of things, including the game. I think we've covered like a lot of interests of the players, and you got a good idea of what players want and what you're gonna modify and or change by
Fingers
the
crossed,
yeah. How much of this stuff is like ready to go? Like, are we close to get into the beta?
Here's what we said earlier, and it's still accurate, unfortunately. Which is the biggest thing preventing us from like talking about an ETA was the fact that we weren't sure exactly how much content we needed to remake from scratch. Right.
Yeah. So
I've since spoken to an IP lawyer.
Let me reconclude. Let me edit my question. Like, I was thinking about this whole conversation. You basically recreated the game, but still, if we think about it, has a lot to do with prod, and you can get like really like small leaks that the prod devs you could get in trouble with. That was what I was thinking, and I was thinking if you're insecure with that, with the thing that even if you make the code from zero, you're gonna have legal problems with the game.
You
So
can't
I would say that
copyright.
Hold up.
Go for it.
Well, go ahead and say what you're going to say, because I might have something to say response.
You can't copyright gameplay. You can only copyright like assets and code.
Correct.
So if there's a game that plays exactly the same as a different game, they can't do anything about it. That's why you have like 10 different versions of Flappy Bird on iPhone.
Okay, so
that
now,
said, actually, hold up. That said, it's not actually quite that simple. You can sort of copyright gameplay. The official, and I spoke about this earlier, the official statement on video games and stolen content, etc., is literally in one case, we'll know it when we see it. All of the legislation for international copyright law basically talks about, at best, board games. There is no proper legislature for video game copyright law internationally. That's the first thing I was saying.
That's what I was aware of that. Okay.
I'll get to the rephrase in a second, but I just want to clear this up. Okay. I've spoken to an intellectual property lawyer about what we have to do to rebuild everything, right? And what we do have to rebuild to re-release the game, right? And the first thing is we have to remove all the sprites that we don't own, obviously. We have to make all the code our own, and we have to make sure that the gameplay is distinct enough that Deca does not feel like they should just try to sue us for everything that we have.
Yes.
The idea is basically a DMCA is actually relatively inexpensive. You can hire a legal firm for a small sum to just send a DMCA, and that's it. A proper international litigation with all this stuff is actually really expensive. And I think the end result would be if they tried it, they wouldn't win the case because we are going to remove all the content that we don't own. And we pretty much already have, right? We're just finishing resprites and stuff. We're going to make the gameplay all of our own, and the code's going to be all our own. So they won't win, right? They won't win. They'll just lose money. And we won't win because we'll also lose money to the lawyers. The end result is that everyone's unhappy and loses all their money to the lawyers.
Yes.
Right.
So it's a pain in the ass.
But it's actually a good thing because it's a pain in the ass for everyone, and that means that they aren't going to do it. So we just need to make sure that we've met that criteria, that there's no reason that they would feel that they have anything to gain by sending us a DMCA or suing us. If they send us a DMCA, by the way, once we finish all these changes, we can just ignore it. We can
All
just
right.
ignore it.
So, but are you aware of the thing that it's a really like the best? It's a really high competition for them. When you release the game, it's gonna be like they're gonna try to find something that's gonna cause you problems. And
I would agree with that.
And that's the way I see things, because I know some details, and I know some guys at Deca, and I know how they
He has
manage
connections,
things.
boys.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, the feds are coming. The feds are coming.
So I understand what you're saying, and I get it. And I also understand that they are at this point, unfortunately, and this is too bad. We really were looking for a partnership, but they are now a competitor, right? And
they did it themselves.
Right. So I was about to say, I mean, maybe this is a bit arrogant, but I think we're okay with that. I will say that we've talked since then to the Realm of the Mad God specific team, if that makes sense. Not to Deca corporate, to Deca Realm, right? And we're actually on pretty good terms with them, honestly. There's also no denying that they're heroic dungeons. Oh, that's kind of our epic dungeons. Those reactive proxy, yeah, that's kind of our primal effects. And then dynamic music. When they were testing dynamic music, I don't know if you know this, they literally had music playing from a private server. Okay. This is true. They obviously take inspiration from us, and frankly, I don't really mind it. I think that the actual developers of the game, I think we sort of mutually respect each other. Deca corporate is a different situation, right? And I think as far as they're concerned, yeah, they'll try to outcompete us. But I said this earlier, they're held back by a lot of things that were made by, frankly, not them. Their pet system is a big example of it. And I'm pretty confident. I think that we have the team and the community and the skills to make something better.
It's really nice that you're confident, and you also have the rights to be confident because you worked so hard for these things, and you have a lot of stuff that you have, even if they come to us for some reason, or they come directly to you to report something, and you might get in trouble. You have the ability to get out of that. But I was thinking, the margin of error has to be 0 in order for you to not have legal problems, and you are aware of that, right?
Yes, although again, I will put a slight, I'll add some slight nuance to that, which is what we actually need is to be zeroed out of from their content, right?
Yeah.
We need to make sure that they don't feel like they could win anything in court. That's really what we need. Keep in mind that the goal is to be our own game. We're not trying to say how much can we reskin Realm of the Mad God to not become. No. And in fact, not only do I want to avoid that just because I feel like it's morally wrong, we made RotF because we weren't happy with a lot of the things around with the Mad God. So again, we'd like to lean into that, not lean away. So we're gonna do what we can to make sure that not only is the game legally defensively different from Realm of the Mad God, we actually want it to be different from Realm of the Mad God. It is our own game, and we want to make sure that people feel like they're playing RotF. So we are aware of just how slippery a slope it is, but we also, I think, respect and have talked to professionals
it's about moral stuff here. It's about morals, but
it's about morals and it's about legality, and I like to think that we have a decent grasp of both for the moment. Fingers crossed.
I have one quick question here. Did you guys decide on keeping or resetting the content that all players had?
Progress-wise, it's a reset. It's a full wipe.
It's a complete wipe.
Hey, so Miniguy, I heard you talking about no permanent loot boost earlier. I didn't hear anything about how that would tie into guilds, because I wasn't here the whole time. I just joined about 10 minutes ago. So
you're good. So the Q&A is actually pretty much ending now. But with regards to guilds, the loot boost is basically the way it's going to work. It's going to be a few different guild rewards that you can get where everyone works. Everyone in your guild works to a common goal. So the guild master or whatever chooses the current goal, and then everyone can contribute guild fame to unlocking that goal, whether it's a 24-hour loot boost or a personalized realm for that guild, etc.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we
All
went
right, that's
into
pretty
the
much it.
legal stuff, but you missed the question, like the concluding question about how close are we, like with coding. You have everything sorted out.
Everything that I've described so far, with the except I pretty much said what is and isn't done, but everything that I've described so far, with the exception of the class thing, has a decent amount of code done for it.
All right.
Like all that's left, like take the world boss system for example. All that's left is we need sprites for the world boss, and we need an actual fight. But all of the underlying tech is there. So yeah, we should be looking at a release date soon. Maybe. So soon, we can say how soon it's coming. So it should be good.
Yeah, with this virus, you might have a lot of success
We'll
if
see.
you release
For
it
some
as
reason.
soon as you can.
True. If everyone is quarantined, maybe we'll have players.
Guys, I got an idea. We should make a private server, dude.
Yeah, all right. I'm a bounce. I will let you figure out how to clip and maybe trim and maybe remove all the ear rape from the hour-long recording.
And good luck. Good luck,
I'm
man.
so mind blown that this many people actually came. It's like I literally just stopped in to say hi to Pat Pass. This is actually really cool. Like, thanks for
Miniguy, I'm the famous guy here. They came from me.
That's true.
Miniguy.
Bro, this is just all the people that are very excited about this game. That's it, man.
I'm really excited. It's like for real.
Miniguy.
People who actually care.
Wait, what's up, Jacob?
Miniguy, will you sign my chest?
Minnie, I have an actual question.
Go away, Jacob.
Okay, Pop.
Okay.
Jacob. All right, I'm gonna head out, guys.
Can I ask one last question?
One last question. Should I? I feel like sure. What's up?
Yeah, I haven't asked a whole question this whole time, but
Yeah, and you've been here, so go for it. You've earned it. What's up?
Can there be artist commissions for like sprites and concept
So
art,
all of the people on our art team right now are commissioned. The people working on legacy content are being paid. We sort of like looked into like a decent amount of like how this tends to work in the games industry, and it turns out it's like really immoral. Just straight up is. Deca, I mean, I'm just gonna name drop here. Their user generated content team doesn't get paid pretty much at all. That's absurd. They get like keys ? That's ridiculous. They are doing work. The problem is it's really hard to pay people, right, for one 8x8 sprite, right? It's hard to justify. So the solution is that you need to have projects that are relatively large scale, and then have people work on a large number of sprites at once, and then you pay for the whole project at once. And that's how we're doing it. Because it's just not moral to accept free labor. That's absurd. So I mean, don't get me wrong. I still like the idea of like if someone wants to like just volunteer and like work on fan content, like more power to you. That's really cool. I'm really excited about that, right? But when I see studios like work making money off of passion projects, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, and that's really immoral.
Bethesda.
It's just immoral, right? We got to do better. So that's what we're doing. All right, I'm gonna head out, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
See you.
Q&A, and thank you for putting up
Where's
for
my
bullshit.
donator?
Mike, you're fucking sexy. That's all I want to say.
Hey, nice.